I find that entrepreneurs, you need talent, you need perseverance, you need. I think one thing is that entrepreneurs are often too specialized. Either someone very into technology and has some great inventions in technology, but doesn't know anything about business or marketing or finance. And the other thing is that
Storytelling is a powerful tool for entrepreneurs to connect with their audience and build a strong emotional connection. By using stories to humanize their brand and engage their audience with entrepreneurs, they can build their loyalty, they can earn trust, and the most important thing, the sales. We have seen a lot of big names, big companies, big products. They have a specific tagline. Whenever we read that tagline somewhere, we connect with that particular thing or with that particular product. So, how we can generate story of our brand? All these things will be discussed in today's podcast because we will be having a storyboard expert who has been working in this field from last 25 plus years. He's a trainer, he's an author, and he is a coach as well. He is John Elbing. He will address all the queries in today's podcast. So without any further delay, I'm very excited for this podcast and I will suggest you take notes. Without any further delay, let's dive into the podcast. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have John Elbing. He is a story builder. He make brand stories, and with that, he is a mentor to lot of entrepreneurs. Thank you so much for your precious time today.
thanks for having me. Always interesting to share.
Okay. Uh, when I was going through your profile, I have seen that you have worked with multiple companies, with multiple CEOs. But uh, what was the biggest thing you have learned from your failure?
I guess two things come to mind. One was I had a startup a dozen years ago, and we worked and came up with this great idea, built this incredible system, rebuilt it, improved it before confronting the market. So it was a ride sharing, kind of a mixture between kind of a Uber before Uber, and we created this incredible system, and no one ever got in a car. And afterwards, I really felt that we could have built something on Excel, tested it before wasting so much time building it. So the idea to confront really early was really interesting. That's like it got me into lean startup, and then when working with other entrepreneurs about some entrepreneurs say, it's secret. We shouldn't say they're going to steal my idea. But I mean, if you have to talk about what you're doing, you have to get out there. You have to understand if someone's interested and take their feedback.
Very well said. And I think failure is the biggest teacher. You learn from your mistakes, and after that, you make a plan. A lot of people, they have qualities to become an entrepreneur, but they are afraid to take first step. Why they have fear in themselves? They don't. Why they don't believe in themselves? What is your take on it?
I think one big thing is the gap between the perception. Some people are either too confident or don't trust their idea, and so they don't know how to talk about what they're doing, and they fiddle, but they don't have a way of explaining in an interesting way what they do, and so that other people can understand, get involved, and test. Uh, Either they think no one will like it and they don't try, or they try something and then no one is interested. And I think that it's this kind of empathy, feedback, connection, working with your clients, working with the people you're trying to help, basically, is really important.
Really well said. And I think knowing your audience is the most important thing. Can you tell me, because you are a trainer as well, you have seen a lot of people, you have interacted with a lot of entrepreneurs, any two qualities which makes an entrepreneur dominant, like a dominant personality? Which are the two qualities an entrepreneur should have to be a dominant personality in the society?
So I'm not sure dominant personality is what I would be looking for, but um, I find that entrepreneurs, you need talent, you need perseverance, you need. I think one thing is that entrepreneurs are often too specialized. Either someone very into technology and has some great inventions in technology, but doesn't know anything about business or marketing or finance. Um, and and the other thing is that at the beginning you're doing what you love, and that's easy and that's fun. You're building something, or you're on the business side. Whatever it is you love is the thing you're building, and that's great. And then when it takes off, you have to do all the things that you don't like. So you were into technology and suddenly you have to hire people, raise funds, do marketing, do administrative tasks, talk to lawyers, all those things where aren't nearly as fun as the product itself. Or some people would love sales, but then they don't hate the product. And so either if you can have a team of people with these different passions that combine, is probably the strongest way of doing it. The few entrepreneurs that really can do it all are very rare. But finding the right co-founders is complicated. A lot of companies I've worked with, the tech guy wants a co-founder that's into marketing, and the business guy wants the co-founder that's into uh, tech or whatever, and to build these teams that cover all the bases is really will be a big step towards success.
Okay, really well said. I think as an entrepreneur, you should be capable enough to do multitasking, I guess, in initial phase, right? Uh, what if you go move to the hiring process when you are hiring someone, or when you are hiring new people for your company? uh, there might be possibility to make mistakes, like this person will not suitable enough for your company. So how to overcome all these things, like while the processing of hiring? What is your take on it?
First, I would hire for attitude more than or just as much as particular skills. Um, if you find the greatest developer, but then is a diva and is arrogant and can't work with other people, that won't help. And sometimes it's easier to develop new technical skills than it is to change your attitude.
Okay, that's really great. When I was going through your profile, I've seen that you continuously talk about story building, story building. So, what is story building, and how a brand can sell his services by the help of story building? Can happen in 2025.
Yes. So one of the traps that entrepreneurs fall into is talking about what they do. We're doing this amazing thing. We're the best. It's great. We do this and this and this and this and all this. Um, but a client wants you to talk about them. What's in it for them? Do you understand? Do you understand me? And so, with working with over 100 different startups, I've built this methodology which is a framework, which I call story building, um, where you take the standpoint of your customer. And when we encounter a brand, meaning we see a billboard, we walk into a store, a restaurant, and if you can build your story to bring your customer through those steps, it's much more engaging than just say, hey, look how wonderful I am. And the steps would be, so I encounter a brand, the first thing I say, is it for me? So I walk into a high-end luxury store and I think, ooh, that's not for me. But I walk into a trendy coffee shop and I think, ooh, that's for me. And even for companies, I need to buy some software or I need a service. And I think, do they work with companies like me, or is it for gigantic, only for enterprise size companies? Do they understand my situation? Do they understand my problem? And so if I'm looking for a to-do app, say, and I'm an independent consultant, and they say, we're the best to-do app for teams. And I think, oh, I'm not a team, and it's over because I think it's not for me. Even though maybe the product would be good for me, somehow I have to recognize myself and feel that you work with people like me. And if I do that, then I'll look into what you offer. But I have to trust you. I have to understand clearly what you're offering. I think today there's so much out there that you have to be different. You can't just be better. You're faster, cheaper, whatever. But if it's sort of like most people do it this way, but hey, we do it this way and it's different. And so if once I'm interested, then there's this step where change is complicated. So I'm going to feel that it's too much effort. What am I really going to get out of it? And so you want to explain the experience. It's going to be easy. The setup is easy. Buying is easy. This is how it's going to happen. So you can picture not only how it'll happen, we're working together, but also what is this better life that you're promising? You're telling me that you have this software to make better podcasts or something, but you want to know, how? Is it the sound? Is it the picture? What's going to happen? How will I be more successful? How will my life be better? So if you build your story by saying, these people, have this aspiration, but they have this problem, we have a different solution, and look how your life will be better. Imagine this positive future. It's a structure that engages the customer at each step, and instead of just saying, hey, this is great, and then it's up to me to figure out if it's for me or not. And I've done this enough with companies and startups where I found that not only going through this process, not only do you build a story that can be your website, can be your investor pitch or whatever, but it forces you to think about your customer. Most of the startups, when we go through this, they're happy with the story for their marketing, but they've actually positioned their company differently. They actually think about who are their best clients, how they should talk to them, what is their focus, and it really helps in their positioning. And so the idea is that next week, well, whatever day this comes out is, there's a pre-order I'm making it into a book, basically. And so it's going to be story building, and April 26th, it'll come out, but you'll be able to pre-order pretty soon. So I've been spending Christmas writing on my draft.
From our side, we want to congratulate you on your book. I will link my next question with the previous one. As a story building, as you said, as you mentioned, that is the most important thing for entrepreneurs or for a business. But story building, we have seen a lot of brands, multinational brands, they have slogans, they use specific taglines for their brands. So these things or these procedures will work for only brands who are already established, or these going to work with some new startups or some new business as well. So this strategy will work for both, or like this work for established businesses.
So the idea of a tagline, it's not just saying, we're good or whatever. You have to find, it's something that makes you different, unique, so that people remember. And then it has to be memorable in of itself. If you have a tagline that is, we do statistics software that does this, that, the other, and it's this long, and no one will remember, and it's not really a tagline. But if you have something simple where, come to us and you'll be happy, well, there's no point either, because you don't know who the brand is. So part of the tagline is it should explain, but in a way that is memorable. So I'm coaching a startup that does solar ice. And as a tagline, solar ice is pretty good because once you know what it is, and I'll tell you in a second, but it's also intriguing. So it's a way, if I was in a networking event and say, hey, what do you do? I do solar ice. You think, what? You already lean in. And the idea is they do a shipping container, you pull out solar panels, and it produces an ice room for developing countries off grid. No electricity, just the sun, just the heat of the sun creates ice. And solar ice. They're called frost forge. But other, so even for myself, one of my taglines is your brand from their standpoint, meaning that your brand can't be from your standpoint. It has to be from how your customers see you. And hopefully in 5 words, you sort of understand that. So I think that is an interesting exercise because it forces you to say, how are we different? How can we make it, interesting? It can be, a play on words. You take an old, a saying and you transform it. But it's all the reflection behind it where you sort of concentrate all your difference into that thing. So the exercise is good for the startup. And if you come up with something good, actually, people will catch the thing. I've found that actually ChatGPT is pretty good at generating taglines. If you can lengthily fill out, tell them exactly what you're doing, why it's different, what are the benefits, all this stuff, and then say, hey, come up with something different and make it into short. And some of those suggestions are actually pretty good.
Brand uniqueness matters the most, and I think a lot of people who are seeing this, they will be getting a lot of really good and new information for them. So now I have a surprise rapid fire question for you. So you have to answer all the questions very quickly. So you are a morning person or you are a night person?
I'm both, in the sense that I'll get up relatively early, but I'll go to bed pretty late. But then I have power naps in the middle.
Okay. Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Calls or text?
Yeah, I guess nowadays, well, FaceTime, video call.
Okay. E-books or physical books?
So I read mostly on Kindle just because, and I have hundreds of books on Kindle. But Kindle is great for reading from the beginning to the end. So if you read a novel, you read it through, that's great. But some of these business books where you want to go back and forward, you want to leave it open, there are diagrams and things like that, then I'll use the paper version because it's more a work tool than just something you read.
Any secret talent nobody knows about you?
I guess my superpower, as an icebreaker, I like asking people what their superpower is. And I think what I've come to is an entrepreneur can dump out a messy description of what they're doing, and I can re-put it in shape and say, oh, so what you mean is you're doing this, 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 and I can somehow, I'm good at understanding and helping people understand, and that's what got me to storytelling, and I'm constantly in this mode of understanding and turning things into television. Because I think one thing I do is I can put myself in the shoes of a customer and see how it feels. Or if you say something, you say, "Wait, this is what I'm going to say to the customer." I can feel sort of this. I can I can take the standpoint of someone else, and that's become such a habit that I do it all the time. I mean, I go into a restaurant and there's a menu. I'll sort of pre-taste the dishes to know which ones I want. Or if I'm going to, say something important to someone, I'll say it a few times quickly in my head to come out with where I've listened to myself from their point of view, kind of thing.
Very well said. And I think it's time to come back on the track. And we were discussing about entrepreneurship. We listen a lot of things regarding entrepreneurship, but there's a major difference between technical CEO and a formal CEO. Being a experienced personality. Can you elaborate the difference between them? What is the main difference between a technical and non-technical CEO?
I think things have changed. Now you can produce a technical product easier, faster, alone in your, in your bedroom kind of thing. So I'm coming to meet technical CEOs who can go very far with a product before thinking about marketing and business and money and organization and teams and all this kind of thing. When I meet a business CEO, they'll have a they'll have an idea, and they'll confront the idea, and they'll look into how they can build it, and they'll project the business side, and then they'll say, oh damn, where can I find a developer to build it? And then there is that struggle. They'll outsource, they'll offshore, they hopefully find someone to come in, but somehow the focus is there. The technical CEO has an advantage in the sense where they can produce something, but also the focus is maybe sometimes more narrow because it's a lot on the technology, where a non-tech CEO will have a broader view. Do you need both?
You need both, and I think multitasking is a key, as you mentioned earlier as well. Let's suppose I'm starting a new business and I am a CEO and I've been working with my company and my company is established now. And when is the correct time when I should share my hats, when I share my responsibilities? Now it's time to trust my employees as well. So, what is the right time in a startup or in a business?
On Tuesday. Uh, well, I guess every situation is pretty different in the sense that sometimes you have co-founders that can share responsibility and you can grow much farther. Other times it's suddenly when you have like a serious fundraising where suddenly your shareholders will want you to hire a senior marketer and hire a senior developer and maybe replace you as CEO, and there's this external pressure to do things differently. Yeah, so I'm not sure there's a rule. I sort of feel that as companies grow, sometimes there's a very small team can build some crazy stuff and can go very far. And then sometimes the nature of the business you're building requires bigger teams faster, and then you have to get organized, manage, and you have to grow differently.
Okay, really interesting. Now we are living in a digital era where everything is digitalized, and social media is playing a vital role. I was going through a survey: 1.8 billion people using TikTok on daily basis, out of 8 billion people around the globe. So, how can I market my personal brand or my business through social media? What should be the strategies?
I suppose, I guess the first step is to know who you're talking to. So I spend a lot more time on LinkedIn than anywhere else because the people I want to talk to are in the business mindset, and so they're more on, I'm selling to companies and startups. And then if you're selling cosmetics, well, maybe being on Instagram or on TikTok is better. What I found is that you need a strategy. So if you take a company, I've found a lot of startups will sort of say, okay, we need to break the code, we need to find the perfect strategy for our social, and then we're good. And that doesn't work. What does work is to have a kind of factory where you're doing the best and you see what works and then you tweak it and you do it better. If something doesn't work as well, you stop and you try something else and you improve and you measure, and it's exhausting. So some people are very good at that, but it's hard to have that level of discipline. For me, I went onto LinkedIn, I did video twice a week, for 2 months and stuff. And then finally, I got caught in other things, and then I missed and one, and then I didn't keep going. Or I started a blog, and then, a great blog post, and, after 3 months, they started spreading and things, and then I ended up hiding my blog because it's too old. So part of it is just this discipline. I think if it's about your personal brand, it's sort of about authenticity. I found that I'll post something on LinkedIn, say, hey, I'm going to talk in front of this group, and I'm a little bit nervous, and then I'll get a lot of response. And when I say something like, very serious about my business, I'll get less response. So you're sort of building your show behind the scenes a little bit. I've done this a lot with my book, where I had people vote on the title, on the cover, and then said, it's this thing, and I'm going to go. And by being there, telling your story is more engaging than if you're, something that's very serious, where you talk about, your business and your offer all the time.
Very well said. And I think relatability is the most important thing. Audience should relate to yourself and what you are trying to say, and finding audience. So we have found the right audience on social media. Now we are business is growing. What are the key factors? What are the signs that our strategies are going properly? What are the signs that we are on the right track?
I guess everything comes down to traction. And so at every stage, what we call traction is different. You have to get people interested. It can be letters of intent. You can have people sign up in advance. Then you get, the first beta users, and then you have paying customers, and then you have increased in paying customers, and then you have, and all these things. So I see this shows very much when you're trying to raise funds. Investors want you to show traction. And so you can come up, and traction can be in all these different forms, but somehow traction, you have to be able to show traction. And the risk is that there are vanity metrics. There's fake traction. Like you say, look, the number of likes, keeps going up. So sure, but I mean, that doesn't mean you're actually selling something. And so each of those stages, you have to understand what is the important thing, and is that measure moving, and are you not hiding behind some some fake measure that just makes you feel good.
Originality matters the most, and I think should not be pretending as someone else, which is not linked with your personality. And I think that we have a time limit, and thank you so much for your precious time. Before leaving, I will be taking advice for young people who are depressed, who want to do something in their life, or those entrepreneurs who are trying but they are not getting the results. Your advice to them?
Well, first of all, I think there's always a dip. You start building something, and that's great, and then there's a sort of a desert you have to go through, and so there is this level of perseverance, and I think coming back to connecting with your customer. You have to go out of the building. You have to talk to people. You have to show. You have to understand. You have to have people test. You have to, you can't just do your thing all on your own. And so if somehow people aren't getting interested, are you doing, is there something you could change that increases interest? Is it just how you're marketing it, how you're talking about it, the channels, they found that some product suddenly doesn't work in France, but works great in Germany, or, doesn't work in the States, but works in the Middle East, or, they thought it was for young women, but actually, older people are, to try to test, to get feedback, and not just tweak alone in your basement kind of thing.
Thank you so much for your precious time. And I think a lot of young people have learned a lot of things. And Personally, myself, I have learned a lot of things, and story building is the most important thing. If you like the concept, so do share your valuable feedback in the comment section, and we will meet you in the next podcast. Till then, take care. Bye bye.